Okay, so what I wanted to talk about tonight, slightly different to last night. I thought it was really good having like a technical call last night, going through like the how-tos, that kind of thing. I absolutely loved it, and I thought didn't want to like repeat or kind of do the same thing. So tonight I want to talk about something I think is really important. I'm going to talk about like getting uncomfortable, and this is something I think that maybe we don't necessarily think of on a daily basis, but it's something that is going to massively grow your business and probably going to be the difference between you like developing and growing and getting to different positions or to effectively being stuck, right? So when you start out in this business, most people, and I'm sure like can put in the chat if you agree, most people I think feel a little bit uncomfortable with something of the business. You know, like for me, I wasn't really active on social media when I started. I certainly wasn't comfortable like going live or doing anything like that. And I was massively out of my comfort zone when I first started this business, 100%. And then I think after a few weeks, you kind of like get a bit into it, don't you? You kind of get a bit settled and you get a little bit comfortable, and things like doing your basic DMO becomes just your routine, and it doesn't make you feel awkward anymore. You just do it without even thinking. And you're going to get to a point in your business where, and maybe you're here right now, where you feel comfortable. You're pretty confident with your posting. You know what you're doing with your stories. You know that you've got to message as many people, and you're kind of like just sailing along, like really happily. You love the business, but you're maybe not growing. And at this point, this is where you really have to get uncomfortable. Otherwise, you are just going to stay in exactly the same place. And this doesn't mean that if you're not moving positions, like you're not growing. This means that if you are stuck at a position, but you don't feel different like each week or each month, and you don't look like, you know, back in from 6 months time and feel like you've grown, then you're probably just not getting uncomfortable enough. You're probably just playing it a little bit too safe. Yeah, do you know what, Jenna? Like this was me, like for a long, like the whole, I'd say, of last year, from when my business boomed. I think I was so overwhelmed by the growth I'd had, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, I'm smashing it. I was then a bit like, oh, and then I just kind of got a little bit stuck. But it's okay to be stuck at a position, but I wasn't really doing anything different. I wasn't getting uncomfortable. And it's recently I've really tried to make this a thing I'm doing, and I'm going to totally hold my hands up. There's things that I am not doing now that when I sat down earlier and wrote my list down, I was like, come on, Elle, like you've got to do more of them. You've got to get yourself like more uncomfortable. And I just think as well, like being uncomfortable will mean different things for different people, you know? So we are all so different, which is why this business is amazing, because we need different people for it to work. But like something that makes me uncomfortable might make Jenna feel fine, or something that makes Danny feel uncomfortable might not make me feel uncomfortable. We're all going to be totally different. So it's not necessarily looking at what other people are doing and mirroring them, because you're going to be different to them in terms of, you know, what you're confident with and what you're not. So it could be something really obvious, like a really obvious one off the top of my head would be going live, right? Like that's the big thing, or talking to the camera. Like for me, like that doesn't make me feel uncomfortable anymore. Like it did at some point, but that's not my thing anymore. And I would say, like for me, something that makes me feel not uncomfortable, but things I need to get better on, would be like, I'm really bad because I don't do any of our cooking. It's awful. Adrian does all our cooking. I just like forget to take photos of my food. Like it sounds so stupid, but for me, it's an uncomfortable thing because I just don't do it. So I've got to make myself do it. Or, you know, for me, something I'm really working on at the minute with Danny and Ross, and they've been so helpful, is like leveling up my business, like advertisement in terms of like my direct and my indirect business posts that are personal. So really taking advantage. And like today I went to IKEA, and this will make me sound like such an idiot, but I took my tripod to IKEA, and I was stood in IKEA with my tripod out, and people walking past, and I was thinking, well, Elle, do you want to get to NMD? Just got to get uncomfortable and just get on with it. And I was thinking, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I was taking photos. That for me makes me feel uncomfortable because I feel a little bit of a wally. But I'm like, I've got to level up and I've got to grow and I've got to change. So I've got to do the things that I effectively do not want to do. So I would say to you, a good thing to do is to write down those things that you are not doing. And do you know what? When you're not doing something, it's either going to be for two reasons. Number one, maybe you are comfortable, but it's not a priority. So for example, for me, I go live on Facebook every single day. However, Instagram, I'm rubbish. I'll always upload my Facebook live, if it's a good one, to an Instagram TV, but I know that I've got to get into the habit of alternating. And, you know, I don't want to do like overkill, but maybe one day do a Facebook live and put it as Instagram TV. The next day do an Instagram live and download it and put it on my Facebook. I should be varying it up, but I know that it's just like I have in my head that Facebook lives are more of a priority, which is crazy because my business is bigger on Instagram. So it's something I've got to take responsibility for. Or if it's not that it's not a priority, it's probably going to be because like it makes you feel awkward and you don't want to do it. And we all know those are the things that that we just have to do. So it could be something totally different, you know, for you. It might be like Jenna said, exercising or sharing food. Like another thing for me that I'm gonna me and Stacey are gonna hopefully do on soon is like hosting events, like because obviously of COVID, but at the point where I would say my business grew, where I was confident enough to host events, I couldn't host them because obviously it was COVID. So for me, people might have been like, oh, like you've spoken at events, like, I can't believe you don't host them, but I've never done it. So it's something I know that if I'm going to be an NMD hosts events, and that's something I've got to do. So really get your list down of actually like what things are, you know, are making you feel a bit like, oh, I don't want to do it, that, you know, if you do it, it's probably going to make you take your business to the next level, you know. And it can be anything. Like I said, it's not going to be the same for everyone. Like everyone's so different, and you are completely different personality, so you're not going to be the same as someone else. But maybe like buddy up with someone and maybe get them to look through your page, or, you know, go through with each other, actually what are you like maybe not that great at in terms of you just don't do it, and like quiz each other, because sometimes it's hard, I think, to like criticize. I'm just going to mute everyone. To mute everyone. So sometimes it's difficult to criticize yourself, but it's easier to maybe see like in other people, you know, and really get in your head like, what is it that you want to focus on? And you know what, like if you get comfortable and you do not grow, I can 100% guarantee you will stay in that position forever. And do you know what? I used to wonder why there were people at these positions like NMD for like 5 years. And I was like, how are you stuck at a position for 5 years? I've been at QNMD for a year, and I get it now, because for the last, I'd say 4 months, I have been stepping up, but previously I was just too comfortable. I was too comfortable just doing my thing, you know, knowing what I was doing. And that's why people get stuck at these positions, because they're just not growing, you know. And that time when you're not hitting a position, that should honestly be the most exciting time, which might sound silly, but like when you hit a position, it should almost be like like a bit of a release, because you've done so much growing, you've come on so much, that you just need like a moment to reflect and be like, I've smashed it, like what's next? And then it's kind of like little breaks in between you're accelerating, you know, like you stop, you have a breath, you like look up for air, you check out what's going on, and you go again and you go again. And that's why how you have to look at it, because I used to look at it as being like so excited to hit a position, which yes I am, but actually now I look at it like I'm excited to be a position. I'm not excited to hit one, because if I hit one, I'm effectively just having a little break. Not like I'm having a break, you know, having a moment where I go, oh, okay, I'm this position now, and then I'm going again. And that's honestly like the way you're going to grow in this business. And that's the way you're going to progress through positions, but also progress within yourself, because there's nothing worse than someone, I say this all the time, but someone hitting a position before they're ready, because effectively at some point their business is going to drop. And when it drops, if they're not ready and they're not like mentally, like, you know, on it enough, and they're not resilient enough, they're going to quit, or they're going to keep fighting. And I'm really pleased that even though when I hit QNMD, maybe I wasn't technically ready, because I went from like an SC, he wasn't hitting SC points, to QNMD in like 4 months. That is really big growth. And looking back now, like, did I know, was I probably 100% ready? No, I wasn't. But what I did do was work on my mindset, which is why I stuck with it, and I didn't quit. But I saw people last year in the boom who went, you know, NMD, and then they quit because they just got there too soon. And effectively, they didn't kind of carry on like working on themselves and getting uncomfortable. They just stayed at that position mentally, and then wondered why their business didn't grow. And it's like, come on, like you're not doing anything. So why on earth do you deserve your business to grow? And that's how you have to look at it as well. And you know what? Like you cannot do 100% of 100% all the time. Like you can't do everything. Like if you think about this, like I always say, don't I, like a basic DMO, you can technically do in an hour. Like you can do that. Sorry, I'm like having a really bad throat. But there's so much to this business. Like you could literally, I feel like I could sit on my phone or be on my phone, like not have the kids around me, not go to work, and fill my day. Like when I speak to people, and when I speak to like one of my friends and say like, oh, you know, I can't wait to this business full time, she's like, I'm gonna get a bit bored. And I'm like, bored? No, we're not gonna get bored. There's never enough time, because there's so much that we can do. So of course, like you can't do everything 100% like effort with everything. Like you can't do that. So what I would say to you is like make a note of like what you're doing. So maybe this month, think, right, what am I not doing 100% of like last month that I'm going to focus on this month? And have little goals like that, because it's all about like creating habits. Because when you focus on something in particular, let's say you're going to focus on like direct message on Instagram, let's say for recruitment, right? And if you say to yourself for this month, your focus, of course, you're going to do your normal DMO, but you're going to make the effort to get uncomfortable and to message 50 people a day unless you're blocked on Instagram, yeah? And you say you're going to do that, that's your focus for this month. By the end of this month, I can guarantee you the following month, even if it's not your focus, you're still going to do it. And then you're going to move on to something else. And this is how you get better, because things become easy. Think about when you first started, right? And how I used to get into such a fluster writing down my posts in my notes for the next day and being like, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to post. Like now I just do it like that because I'm comfortable with it now. So those things that are effectively uncomfortable, if you do them enough, they will become habits that you are comfortable with. And that's the way to go about this. So I would say, like, a little bit of homework for us all. I did mine earlier. Jot down your little list of things that you're going to get comfortable with that you effectively hate doing, like all those tasks where you're like, oh god, I just don't want to do it. And if you're not ready to go live yet, like that's okay. But what I would say to you is, I listen to Jessie Lee like all the time. I know Danny knows I love her, but she says it as it is, and she's like, do you want to make money or not? Do you want to have a dream life or not? Like, the way I look at it, effectively, like, I really struggle with that, like the whole like going live thing. I'm like, well, it's going to grow my business, so I am 100% going to do it. Like, if someone will tell me to do something because it's going to grow my business, I'm going to do it 100%. And you have to look at it like that, because either you're in this for full steam ahead or you're not, And if you want to make it and you want to be making this amazing money, get to these top positions, you have got to be like a sponge, and you've got to do those things that you hate doing, because if not, you are going to get so stuck. And Jessie Lee is very right when she says this. She's like, why would you not do it? Like, what's the alternative? The alternative, effectively, is you just don't grow. And for me, I'm like, that is just not a possibility. Like, that is just not good enough. So get your list written down and know what you're focusing on. Okay, I don't want to like waffle, so I have made notes that I'm going to try and stick to. Okay, yeah. So I was just saying, wasn't I, about we're automatically going to prioritize things that we feel most comfortable with. And if you track this, you will notice this, because I did this last week, and I noticed, like, I am really comfortable doing my Instagram messaging. For some reason, I hate doing my Facebook messaging. I don't know why. I just don't like doing it. It's not that I don't like, I don't know, it's weird. I prefer Instagram. So I tracked this, and I made a note of, like, by the end of the day, what things did I have left on my list. And I'm annoyed at myself, because I used to always get the things I hate done first. And at the minute, I just don't. I'm like, right, Instagram messaging, boom, 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 boom. And I could have done like 150, 200 Instagram messages. And then I'm like onto like 20 Facebook messages by the evening. And I was like, oh, come on, Ellie, you've got to sort it out. So my like little thing for me at the minute is making sure I am like, the ones that I'm not prioritizing, I'm going to prioritize, because effectively, if I don't prioritize them, I ain't going to do them. And I will always do my DMO. But what I mean by that is, I will do maybe 30 or 50 Facebook messages because I've done them at the end of the night, when actually I could have done like 100. And Instagram messages, I 100% know I'm going to do the maximum I can, like 50 plus, until I'm blocked every day, because I literally love it. Like I get so excited on Instagram messaging. So you've got to think about what you're prioritizing and switch it up a little bit, so you're getting those other things done. And like when you track it, like I said, you will be like, oh my God. And do you know what? Like within this business as well, you're going to have to make a few sacrifices. And I was talking to someone recently about this, and she actually really sadly left the business recently. I was really gutted for her, and she said something that made me really think about this. She was saying how she feels like it was too time consuming, this business, and she couldn't be there for her little boy. And she actually doesn't work. She's been, since having her little boy, she's not gone back to work. And it kind of made me sit and think. And I was thinking, like, if you work smarter, not harder, you wouldn't feel like that. But B, I was thinking, it's life. Like, you are going to have to make sacrifices. However, in the grand scheme of things, the sacrifices we make within this business, like, they might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I can guarantee they are not going to make you feel as uncomfortable as if you were in a regular job and you had literally no other options. So, like, I'm going to take that example, because when I think about this, I used to get in a fluster sometimes about, like, oh, I'm on my phone too much around the kids, that kind of thing, like, oh, maybe feel a bit awkward. And I sit down and I think, no, actually, I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to get myself organized and work out where my time is being a mum, where my time is doing the business, and I'm not going to feel uncomfortable when I'm sat down. I say to my kids, I say to Cece, like, mummy's doing 10 minutes of messaging, and she knows this now, and she knows that. And then I think about all those little points in the day where you maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable, where you've got to, I was at a barbecue the other night, and I had to get on a Zoom call at 6 o'clock about something from head office emailed me, and I had to get on the Zoom call, and my friends were like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, just be half an hour. Like, it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I was like, oh God, like, maybe they think I'm rude. But then I was like, I mean, I don't really care because it's my business, but also I was like, do you know what though? Like I would take feeling a little bit uncomfortable at different points in the day than going out to work every day, 9 to 5, leaving my kids every day and feeling uncomfortable the whole time because I feel rubbish for doing it. So remember that when you have those moments when you feel a bit uncomfortable, think about if you didn't have the business. Like I think about how uncomfortable I used to feel when I thought there was no better way than, going to work 9 to 5 or whatever, then going off to have a baby, being on maternity leave, and not being able to buy food at the supermarket because I couldn't afford it. And I was like, that made me feel so uncomfortable. I will never moan about this business ever. I will sit there and I will do those messages on Facebook I don't want to do 100 times over because the alternative is way, way worse. And I think sometimes we have to kind of get out of our own heads a little bit and just like look at the bigger picture, the things that we have to do that we maybe don't want to do that make us feel uncomfortable, like they are not that bad, like life could be a lot worse. I'm just going to check the chat because I'm aware it's going off. Yeah, absolutely. Just getting organized, isn't it, with stuff on a hen do at the weekend. Yeah. And you know what? Like when I went on a hen do the other week, I was doing my work still. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down and 10 minutes of messaging. And the people who actually like love you and respect you, they will support you 100%. Those people that take the mick out of you and those people that like make stupid comments and make you feel uncomfortable, that ultimately is a reflection of them and not you. And that doesn't matter on you because you have to just do you anyway. And don't let that make you feel uncomfortable because that's actually not on you. So yeah, 100%. I love that. And you know what, as well, I was thinking about earlier, another little reflection time. I was thinking about, well, obviously with the convention coming up, which I'm so excited for. I was thinking about this, and this is a really good example of, for me, when I had to get really uncomfortable in this business to grow. So when I was pregnant with Sunny, which was like 2019, there was the event convention in Brighton, and I was literally just pregnant, so no one really knew. And I wasn't making a lot of money in the business then. Like I was probably making £100 to £200 a month, but I was on so we were just about to move house, and I was trying to save up, and money was really tight basically. Obviously I was buying my products, that kind of thing, and I was in a position where I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, where you have got an event coming up and you feel like you want to go, but maybe you can't afford it, or it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. So you've got to say think, I've got to say to Adrian, I've got to go to this event, it's going to cost me some money, but it's my business. And it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable and something that maybe was a bit outside my comfort zone. And I remember I sat down and I was like, I'm going to go to this event, and I'm really glad because that it was COVID, but I was like, I'm going to go to this event because I know it's going to grow my business. And I sat down and thought about all the reasons why I felt uncomfortable. Like the first one, I was like, I basically I can buy my event ticket, my train fare. I actually got a train and a bus to make it cheaper. Like that was not very comfortable. And then I was thinking about where I was going to stay, and I literally got, like, honestly, it was awful. Like an Airbnb, it was £20 for 2 nights in Brighton. It was so cheap, and it was just like gross, like miles out of where like the center was. It was not nice at all. And I remember being like, oh, what am I doing? Like, should I just not go? And I was like, no, come on now. Like, it's these things that you have to do. You have to make sacrifices. You have to make yourself uncomfortable in order to grow. And you know what? Like, I went to that event and it was absolutely incredible. Like, I went there, I loved it. In the evening, I was pregnant. Yeah, I didn't feel great. I felt a little bit queasy, but I basically didn't go out in the evening because I couldn't afford to go out, And I was in a situation where I was like, oh, that's going to be really rubbish. Like, do I really want to go to the event? I have to go home at the end of the event because I can't afford to. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it because I'm going to go to that event. I'm going to show up. And I think sometimes it's so easy to be like, no, I'm not going to do it, or like, oh, it's easier not to do that. Don't do that. Do the things that are going to help you grow in the business, even if you don't like the way you have to go about it sometimes. Like, I would have loved to have been staying in a really lovely hotel and going out for a lovely dinner and drinks, but ultimately I couldn't afford to do that. And I sat there and I was like, okay, so how am I going to get out of this situation? I'm going to build my business. How am I going to build my business? By going to events, by getting inspired. And that's how we have to think about this, And I remember being like, right, I'm going to sell stuff on a Facebook sorts and sales sites to get myself there. And I did that. And I think this is the thing I'm saying, like, you have to get yourself uncomfortable. You have to do these things that ultimately, the reason people are successful in this business, people are not, is the people that are, they make more effort and they stay longer. That's it. There could have been loads of people in that situation where we're like, oh, I'm just not going to go. Like, and people say that. And obviously you can't get to every event. I totally get that, especially now we've got loads coming up, which is amazing. But the big ones like that, like, you've got to go to, you've just got to make sure you can get there, whatever it takes. And I remember being there last time and thinking, like, next time I go to an event, I am going to make sure sure I can stay in a really lovely, like, hotel. I'm going to take a team. I didn't even have a team at this point, it was crazy. And I remember when I went to Danny's event and I was like, I did stay in a really nice hotel and I did have my team there and it felt amazing. And I thought, you know what, if I hadn't actually had the courage to do that and to get uncomfortable and go, I wouldn't be in this position now. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, on the back of that event, obviously then my business really boomed. Like, it's these things that really set us up to be successful within our business. And you have to remember that. Oh, I love that, Becky. Yeah. And you know what? Like, when you think about things like your Instagram messaging that maybe makes you feel uncomfortable, like, think about what is the worst thing that's going to happen. Like, if you, like I said, a big one is going live, isn't it? Or, if you're not going, if you do it, and what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, what, someone's going to laugh at you and just put a nasty comment. Like, so just delete them. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we get so wrapped up in our own heads in this business sometimes. Like, it is so simple. It's simple in terms of, do you want to make money or do you want to make excuses? If you choose money, which I'm sure we all do, you do the work that's going to make you the money. That's all it comes down to, and all these little lessons on the way that we learn, that's making you become a better leader in this business, a better person in this business. And remember, like, if you're feeling uncomfortable and you've got a team, like I could not be saying to my team, like, come on, you need to go live every day, it's going to build your business, if I'm sat there doing a live once a week. They'd be like, jog on, Ellie, like, absolutely no chance, you are not doing it. Like, you have to lead from the front. And if you haven't got a team yet, think about, like, when you do get a team, because you never know when that's going to be. And this is why it's so important to always level up, be the best version of you, because you never know when you're going to recruit a diamond. Like, you can recruit a future PMD tomorrow. And if you are not showing up and getting yourself uncomfortable, how are you ever going to help other people to, you have to, like, you grow through what you go through, basically, and you will get yourself there. And I just think, like, with everything coming up, with all these events, with the convention, like, we have got, like, I think it's like 10 weeks to the convention. I got really excited earlier and counted them. Like, just think, like, set yourself a challenge, like, over the next 10 weeks, what are you going to do? 72 days. What are you going to do over the next 72 days? Maybe have, like, one thing a day, 72 things that you could do each day, like, not each day, but one a day, 72 things that you could level up and become, like, more comfortable with. Like, that's amazing, right? Imagine that. Like, imagine how many people in this business over the next 72 days would maybe not do any of that, and they would carry on, and they've got used to doing their DMO. They just do the DMO and they do it every day, and they never really change. Like, they're not going to be on stage, like, getting, smashing promotions. No, they're not. It's going to be the people who actually up their game over the next 72 days and really level up. And there's no reason why it can't be any single one of us, but I can guarantee it will not be everyone, because there'll be people, and hopefully not us on the call, but people who will just be like, oh no, do you know what, like, actually I'd rather just stay in like a little comfort zone, because that's where I like to be. Yeah, we all like to be there because it feels nice, right? But you're not going to grow if you're there. You have to get uncomfortable. And this is where, like, I find listening to different podcasts is so helpful, because when you listen to people, whether it's a podcast on mindset or it's a podcast on network marketing, like, those people that are doing the podcast, like, they're doing them because they've probably gone through experiences to get them there. They've gone through those things that they've had to be uncomfortable with to get them to where they are. Like, that's why I love it, because, and I was listening actually to Ross's podcast earlier about live videos, and, like, you can always learn more. I go live every day, but I listened to that podcast and I was like, oh yeah, like, I should do more of that. Like, on my live videos, I'm absolutely useless at being interactive on there. I don't do it. I don't know why. Like, I just don't do it. It's not I'm scared of it. I just forget. Like, that's another focus for me. I'm going to go on there and I'm going to make sure I do interact, like, be a sponge, learn from these people, because effectively, like, so the people that are giving you advice, it's probably because they've, like, messed up somewhere along it, and they've, like, had a time where they're like, oh my god, I feel so uncomfortable, I can't do that. They've overcome it and now they're okay with it, and they're giving you information on it and they're helping you out with it. So really be a sponge and really absorb it. And like I said, buddy up with people and make sure you know exactly what your focus is, because if you haven't got a focus, you're probably not going to grow. Like, I think it's very easy to get set on, and having a DMO book is great and going through, like, what you're going to do each day, but that's kind of the way I look at it. That's like you going to school, right? And you doing the schoolwork. And really, if you want to be, like, getting better, you want to be going a bit of above and beyond, like doing a bit more. So I like to think, right, okay, what am I going to do as well as my DMO? I'm going to do a little bit of homework. I'm going to do a little bit extra. And that homework can be things like, listening to a podcast on an area you're not very confident with, going a little bit further. So maybe on your DMO, you're going to do 50 messages, go and do another 20. Yeah. Like, go a little bit more each day. You're not going to be able to go crazy with everything each day. We have 24 hours, but like I said, have a focus for maybe, like, each week. So over the next 10 weeks, you've got something to focus on each time. So you are getting better and better and better and better. Like maybe for you, and it's probably not you guys who are on this, but maybe like training calls, like you feel uncomfortable with. Like this is a big one for me. So Danny will know this, but I always find the 6:30 a.m. calls like really like uncomfortable, really hard, because even though I know when I get on them, I'm going to get my work done. Like my kids get up at stupid o'clock. I find it hard to like get up, do my mindset stuff, do my morning routine, and then get them sorted to get on the call. When I sat down the other day and I was like, effectively, Ellie, you're either making money or excuses. And on this concept, you are making excuses. So you just got to sort yourself out. And I gave myself one of them and I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to get on. And if it's stressful, it's stressful, but I'm going to be on that. I'm going to feel better for it. And do you know what? I feel so much better this week for getting on them. Even like this morning's one, I was on, I think I got half the task done, and then like suddenly smashed Cece in the head. But I was like, I didn't matter because I was on there and I was doing it and I did feel so much better, you know? So like I said, and you can't get on every call. I appreciate that, but try and get on at least one call a day. And if you're someone where you've got a reason, like I said, for me, honestly, like Cece and Sunny are just ridiculous. Where, you know, you feel awkward for getting on one because of whatever reason, like do it anyway, you know, like I said, if you were at someone's house, and obviously, yeah, like spending family time is so important, but if you've got a really important call, you know, you have to get on, go and get on it, you know, like, and we always have a bit of a joke now. I'm going to my dad's tomorrow and he's always like, oh, have you got a call to get on? I'm like, yeah, and he just knows that that's just what she does. That's what she does. And do you know what? Like initially, thanks, Anesta. If anyone's got any like questions, pop them in, because I know I'm waffling on now. But effectively, like when I first started, and I was, you know, at like my parents' house, let's say, and I had to have a training call, and I'd get on it, and they were like, "You're getting on a call? Like we're just having dinner. Like what are you doing?" And I'd be like, "It's all right. I'm just going to put my earphones in and listen." And I remember feeling like, "Oh my god, like I feel so rude." But actually, like it's not rude. This is your business. This is your life. This is what you want to do. And those moments, like now, I wouldn't have any issues getting on a call at any time, you know, like because I know it's important to me. And like I said, those things are going to become just your daily habits, and they're going to come so easy. Yeah, being on calls in Tesco, like people think you're crazy. Like earlier when I was at IKEA, and then I knew people walking past, and even Cece was like, "Mummy, what are you doing?" And I was like, "We've got to get some lifestyle shots, Cece." And she was there, and you know what? Then she was stood there with a little hand on her hip, and I was like, initially I felt a little bit like, "Oh my god!" But you know what? I'm going to pop that tripod in my nappy bag and take it everywhere now. And I'm like, why have I not done this for the last 3.5 years? Like before, I just kind of awkwardly take a selfie, and now I'm like, no, I'm going to put my tripod up, get a proper photo. Why? Because this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And ultimately, you know, I'm going to be saying to like my team, I'm going to say, you know, you want to improve your business post, get your lifestyle post up there. I can't say that to them if I'm there feeling awkward, not doing it because I feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like, no, I've got to just get on with it. And don't get yourself overwhelmed with this, you know, like we can obviously write down. And when I wrote down my list, I was like, bloody hell, I've got absolutely loads to work on, which is good, but don't get overwhelmed and be like, right, I've got 20 things to do this week, I'm going to smash it. So if you do that, you're going to be like, I can't do it. I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm just going to be an SP forever. And I have been there before, like when I was really struggling initially, and I was like, right, I've got to do this. And I used to look like left and right, all the people, what they're doing. And I got a little bit overwhelmed and was like, I'm just going to stay back where I am. And I'm just going to carry on doing my DMO and everything will be okay. And yeah, obviously, like, you know, I was making money and I was like growing a little bit, but effectively I wasn't growing enough. Whereas when I kind of focused on like, right, what have I actually got to do to make myself like get a bit more uncomfortable, to kind of grow and develop, and doing one thing at a time or a couple of things at a time, like it's much easier to manage. And like I said, have a little buddy where you check in with one another and really do that and be responsible and for each other and accountable, because ultimately, like, you have to basically be disciplined within this business, don't you, to do the things that you don't want to do. Otherwise you're not going to get to those places that you want to go to. And just think as well, and like when I sit in the morning and I think about like visualize, you know, where I want to be, what I want to achieve and all this kind of thing, like the feeling that you get when you realize what you want from this business, and when you realize you can actually get it, like anytime you feel uncomfortable, visualize that and think about actually how amazing you feel, because it kind of just like goes over any feeling of uncomfortableness. You just don't even care about it. And when you do these things as well, I think it really reflects on you as a person, you know, like I know initially, oh God, running out of time. Of course we are. I know initially when I was doing the business and I would be like talking to people about it, I would have a little bit of like an edge in my voice where I think I felt a little bit like wobbly about it, you know, not that I didn't believe in it, but more that like I just felt a little bit uncomfortable because I knew that it was a little bit different and people might have an opinion on it, might call it a pyramid scheme. Like now I literally do not care. You know, I honestly don't care because I think I've got used to being so uncomfortable that if I am in a situation where I feel uncomfortable, it kind of makes me comfortable now because I know I'm going to grow. And to a point where, like, when I sat down a few months ago, when I was a bit like, oh, I'm a little bit stuck, and I was like, I just feel a bit like off, like I can't work out what it is. And I was like, not bloody doing anything. I'm just sat here, like, obviously I'm doing my DMO, but I'm not doing anything more. That's all I'm doing. And there's no coincidence, is there? Like I said, that people get stuck in this business. And if you are in a position where you are stuck, like, please don't worry and be like, oh my God, I'm stuck. I've been SP for 3 years. Like, that's not a problem. What is a problem though, is if you are stuck there and you're not doing anything about it, in terms of you may be doing your DMO, but you're doing the same DMO at the same pace, at the same level for the last 3 years, because that's effectively where I was. And I wondered why I wasn't going to go anywhere any quicker. And, you know, like, people obviously then grow after 5 years and hit an MD after 5 years, which they can do. But at some point, something's going to have to have given. They're going to have message a few more people, gone a bit harder within their business, you know, like that's the way it works. And that's the way you get to decisions more quickly. And when you think about people, like I always think about, like, you know, Danny, she absolutely smashed the business. Effectively, she just went out there and did absolutely everything that she was told you had to do to be successful within this business. You know, I can guarantee if someone said to her, like, this is going to make you feel a little uncomfortable, she'd be like, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway, because she knew that's what she had to do to get there. And that's the way you have to be. I use my anxiety as an advantage. Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? I think that's a really important one. Like, if you are somewhere you do struggle with anxiety and stuff, like, you use it to overcome it, and it will make you feel amazing. It 100% will. And do you know what? Like, at the minute when I'm doing like my podcast each week, I actually always try and like get organized and record it. And I recorded my one earlier for Monday because I know I'm going to be away. It's going to be chaos. And I was like, I felt really good after I did it, because for me, like, even though I'm about like 7 episodes in, it's still quite a new thing. And I'm like, oh, I have to go record my episode. And I feel a little bit like, you know, a little bit uncomfortable doing it because it's a little bit different. But every time I do it, I feel amazing. And it's like, if you go live, you know, even if you are comfortable with it, when you go live, it's because you're putting yourself out there, which effectively is like it is a bit uncomfortable for people. You come off and you always feel amazing. I've never done a live video where I've come off, or a training call where I've felt absolutely awful afterwards. I've always felt like a powerhouse, because that's how you're meant to feel in this business, you know, and that's what builds momentum. Like, the way you're going to grow in this business is by momentum. That's the way it's going to happen. And if you haven't got momentum, it's probably because you're not doing anything different. And if you're not growing, you're not getting momentum, your business is going to stay still. You have to, it's all about how fast paced. And when I thought about, like, last year when my business really boomed, it was because there was so much momentum in there, you know, and I was kind of last year forced to do things because I was getting this new team, I was hitting these positions, and I was like, oh my God, I got no idea what I'm doing. But I kind of like winged it a little bit, whereas and now, because of that, I was okay and I was hitting them. And then obviously when it like plateaued a bit and I wasn't then stepping up anymore, I was just where I was, I just stayed still. And now it makes total sense to me when I think about it like that. And I'm like, it does make sense to me, you know, like, if you're somewhere you're thinking about, like I said, the convention coming up in October, and you're like, oh, like, you know, I haven't got a team, I don't want to go, or things like, you don't want to share a room with anyone, do what I did, just go and find a cheap Airbnb. Like, there'll be people in the team that will share, but, you know, go and do that. Like, I remember I didn't really know Danny that well at this point. I'd met her like once. I'd never met Ross. I think I'd only met like a few of the girls literally once. At this point, my uplines had both, like my upline and her upline had both quit like a month before, because they were going to come with me. That was it. They were going to come with me, and then they just quit. And I was like, oh, great. And I remember that feeling of being like, oh my God, I don't want to go. And Adrian was like, oh, just don't go. We'll just stay at home and have a takeaway. And I was like, that's exactly why I'm going. It's exactly why, because if not, I'm going to be stuck here having a takeaway, and then I'll be like annoyed I've not hit positions. And you have to think about it like that, you know, get yourself uncomfortable. So I hope that was helpful. There's only a few minutes. If you've got any questions, let me know. Yeah, I did, Shauna. I was only like 6 weeks pregnant. I remember Adrian was like, don't tell anyone. And I was like, well, I won't be drinking, will I? And I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. And yeah, and it was amazing to be there. And then obviously, like, afterwards, it was COVID. And I was like, I'm so glad I got uncomfortable, because if I didn't, I'd have been so annoyed at myself. So I hope that was useful. Get your convention tickets if you haven't already, because they're selling out really quick. And go and write your little list down of things to get yourself uncomfortable. Bye.